The federal government has declared that Nigeria's 60th independence anniversary celebration will be a low-key one. The federal government is meeting with the Nigerian labor unions with the aim of averting a shutdown of activities in the country with an impending strike action over hike in cost of petrol and electricity. Comes down to one thing: reverse it or we go on strike. We find out the outcome of that meeting today. Hello everyone and welcome to the program. This is Politics Today live on Channels Television. I'm Sean Kimbaloye in Lagos. Nigeria will be celebrating its 60th independence anniversary, but in a matter of days it will happen. But it appears it might not be what you are expecting in terms of the usual fanfare that comes with such celebration and all that. The Nigerian federal government again says that the nation's 60th independence anniversary will be a low-key celebration because of the outbreak of COVID-19. However, the Minister of Information and Culture, Mr. Lai Mohammed, notes that the federal government has approved a list of activities targeted to the end of September 2021 to commemorate Nigeria's Diamond Jubilee anniversary. That is going to be a year celebration. Take a listen to the minister.
Anniversary celebration will be low-key, as our president has already announced. Of course, this is not unconnected with the COVID-19 global pandemic, which has forced some safety protocols on nations around the world. Let me say here that the 10th anniversary celebration will be celebrated for a whole 1 year, ending September 30th, 2021. This, however, does not mean there will be daily activities between now and September 30th, 2021, or that there will be staggered events during the period. Now, some may wonder why Nigeria needs to celebrate its Diamond Jubilee at all, considering the myriad of socio-economic challenges facing the country. And our answer to that is contained in our seal of Together. For a country that has gone through a bitter, internecine civil war, years of political crisis, daunting social challenges, even religious and ethnic crises, etc., our unity and our resilience, which, by the way, is what Diamond represents, are worth celebrating.
Before we dive into our conversation tonight, you heard yesterday that if you do not have food, you better stock up. If you have plans ahead of Monday, you better think about the possibility of a nationwide strike by the Nigerian labor. So we'll look at the implication of that and what it means for the food on your table. But before we dive into the matter with my panel tonight, let me tell you that the Attorney General of the Federation and the Minister of Justice, Mr. Abubakar Malami, has come out to explain the reasons behind his refusal to appear before the Justice Salami-led panel investigating the activities of the EFCC over the past years. A statement from the office of the AGF today states that the AGF's non-appearance at Justice Aya Salami panel of inquiry probing the suspended chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, Ibrahim Magu, was purely constitutional and not based on any ulterior motive. According to the statement of the office of the AGF and the Minister of Justice, it said the appearance or otherwise of the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Abubakar Malami SAN, to serve as a witness in any investigation should be a constitutional matter. The terms and wordings of the invitation extended to the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice to Justice Ayo panel of inquiry against Magu runs contrary to the constitutional provisions. Let's check out quickly some of your stories on Political Roundup as we speak.
A five-man panel of the Court of Appeal, presided over by Justice Adzirim Shella, has reversed judgment in the appeal filed by Senator Duyediri, challenging the nullification of his election as the governor of Bayelsa State. At the hearing of the appeal in Abuja, lawyer to Governor Diri, while urging the court to overturn the verdict of the Bayelsa State Governorship Election Petition Tribunal, argues that the Advanced Nigeria Democratic Party fielded an underage candidate who was not qualified to stand for the election. Lawyer to the Advanced Nigeria Democratic Party, however, insists that the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, unlawfully excluded its candidate from the governorship election and urged the court to affirm the decision of the tribunal nullifying the election of Governor Diri. The Edo State Governor Godwin Obaseki says it is time for the South-South region to take responsibility of its own development rather than leave everything to the NDDC, which he insists has failed to deliver on its mandate. Mr. Obaseki was speaking at the Government House in Oyo, the Akwa Ibom State capital, as part of his tour of the South-South to thank the PDP governors for their support during his re-election.
So ascetic.
The Bauchi State government is seeking a revision of the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Law in the state to accommodate castration of rapists. Governor Bala Mohammed gave the hint while receiving the Minister of Women Affairs and Social Development, Dame Pauline Talon, who is in the state on advocacy visit.
So it was a move that you would say it's one to avert a possible shutdown of the country. The federal government delegation is currently meeting with the leaders of the organized labor over plans by the union to commence an indefinite strike and protest over the hike in electricity tariffs and fuel pump price. The Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Mr. Boss Mustafa, is leading the federal government team comprising of the two Ministers of Labor and Employment, the Minister of Information and Culture, the Minister of Works, the Minister of Power, and the Minister of State for Petroleum. This is the second time the federal government is meeting the organized labor with a view to avert the industrial action. In his opening remarks, the Minister of Labor and Employment, Dr. Chris Ngige, promised that the discussions will be frank, noting that government's decision is not intended to cause any harm. On his part, the NLC President Ayuba Waba insists that the recent increase has eroded the little gains made with the passage of minimum wage, while the TUC President noted that if there has been constructive engagement with labor moment before now, some of the problems may have been solved. We know now that the meeting is still ongoing as we speak. Of course, Channel Television is on the ground to give you all the updates of how that meeting ends. We understand now they're in a technical session, which is now closed to the media. As soon as that they are able to emerge from that meeting, we'll let you know. But one thing that is very certain, the TUC president is insisting that the government must reverse its action in the increase of the price of fuel and the increase in the electricity tariff. Will the government do this? What is the implication of going ahead with a nationwide strike on Monday? And that's what we are discussing tonight on the program. Let me quickly bring my panel tonight on the program to bear. I have Professor Ken Ife, is an economist. He joins us from our Abuja studio. And I also have a former president of the Trade Union Congress, Mr. Peter Esele. Well, how else would you handle this matter if not getting these two men to give us a sense of what is happening? First and foremost, let me allow Mr. Peter Esele to shoot for us and give us what could be the implication should this meeting be a stalemate. We do not hope that it is, but should it happen, what is the implication of the shutdown of this country by labor?
Well, the implication will be you will have a nationwide strike and you will have issues around transportation. You will have a total lockdown depending upon how mobilization has been done between the Nigerian Labour Congress and the TUC. And you just heard what the TUC president alluded to. The biggest problem here has to do with the fact of lack of proper communication. Because what one would have expected, especially from the electricity, from NEC should have been the one driving this There's not even the politicians, because if you look at the ministers and the vice president who has alluded to why the increase has to be carried out, is because of a failure of leadership on the part of NEC. That is why we are where we are.
That is interesting. You've given us an overview of what an average Nigerian, well, they are the ones who will suffer the increase in the price, and they're the ones who will suffer should there be a shutdown of the nation. Let's ask Professor Kanife. Prof, give us a sense of what the position the federal government is in right now, negotiating that the labor should not go on that strike. But how easy is it for labor to hear that kind of negotiation based on the points that the federal government has made before now, that they are caught between a hard place and the sea about the issues of fuel subsidy, which has led to where we are in terms of the price of fuel, and the issue of electricity tariff. They've explained some of these issues, but how hard will it be for the federal government, Prof?
Now, let me begin by commending the unions for actually representing their membership, because they are responding to the call of their members. But they are doing it in a very constitutional way and in a very peaceful way. So that's why I commend them. But from what you said, who suffers the most is still going to be the population. Now, what I should suggest is there's always a middle ground. When you lay your case on the table, as they have done, you have satisfied your duty to your electorate that you are pushing. But then explore the common grounds, because that's what the issue about it being around the table. And in exploring them, have an open mind. Bear in mind that we are a nation at war. We're a nation at war without imposing war tax. Many countries would impose 40% mandatory war tax because you have war in Northeast, in Northwest, in North Central, everywhere. And we are still the lowest tax constituency in Africa, averaging 7% of our GDP, when the average is 15% in ECOWAS, and our conditionality says 20% minimum. So we are so far away from that. And that's why we are having major issue on the debt sustainability. Not because we have hit debt ceilings, but because the revenue situation is not that commensurate. But having said that, look at the case. Understand the economic case. Does it make sense? If it makes sense, how can we live with it? How do we ameliorate the pressure on the electorate? And then how do we make sure that we phase in and keep our eyes on the ball to ensure that they don't miss the essence of the increase? Now look at the case. The case is this. When you are partially deregulating, it is the way we have to go. I've always said that you don't subsidize consumption. If you subsidize petrol consumption, you're exporting our jobs away. You are paying for somebody's job out there, and you are depressing our productive capacity to do something about even refining and our crude. So that is not the way to go. The way to go is to subsidize production so that you are creating the jobs and holding the jobs here. So you've got to remove the subsidy. Now, in removing the subsidy, you move to the next step, which is how quickly can you deregulate so that market will become important in determining the price. We are approaching it by partial deregulation. And that means that there's a middle ground there, and the PPM RC has a way to maintain the floor. Just keep telling them where the floor is. But there's room for negotiation in that respect as we progress to full deregulation. Then you come to power. I have over the years since 2015 saying, let's move market let's move power to the market, to the mass market, and put by the side these shenanigans going on in the power deregulation. Move the power, and now just a few days ago now, Central Bank has responded to that call by saying, okay, I will make the money available. We will now look to build a 7.5 trillion naira additional economy for the power sector. That is incredible. That has been a prayer. That has been an answered prayer. Everybody can now play in this market. And then if we have the Siemens doing end-to-end intervention on the other side, then the situation is going to change radically. But bear in mind, this is asking investors, if you don't want to bring your dollar and pounds, fine, come and use our naira here to do this work, which is even easier.
All right.
But no investor will come in here if they are not going to charge the correct price.
All right.
If they will not invest, they will not take the risk. And then, and Shehu, how can you expect somebody like Dangote that invested over $13 billion on his refinery to hope that he will get subsidy? That's not why he's going to borrow 17 billion. He's borrowing it because he's expecting to sell at reasonable market price to recover.
All right. So,
and once
Prof,
you go that route,
yeah,
investors will come into the economy and the prices will start trending. That we've seen that in 2001. We are paying 35 naira per minute.
So, Prof, let me come in quickly because we need to go on a break. But when we come back, I'm concerned tonight, and our agenda on this program tonight is to look at the impact of some of these decisions of government on the average Nigerian. What can be done to have a balance between the livelihood of an average citizen and what is of benefit to the nation at large? And that's what's going to get our attention later tonight. Wherever you may be watching, the money in your pocket, the food on your table, and the decision of government and the meeting in Abuja tonight, how does it impact you? We'll talk about that next when we return from this break, everyone. Join us again. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. What is on our lips tonight, and we are having a conversation about, is what may be a major setback for the nation should Nigerian labor and Nigerian people get to the street in what may become a shutdown of the nation. The labor union leaders are currently meeting with the federal government on what could be a way out should the labor stick to their guns, and the federal government says they will not reverse. That is the demand of labor. So Professor Ken Ife, an economist, has been talking to us, as well as a former president of the Trade Union Congress, Mr. Peter Esele. Thank you so much, gentlemen. But gentlemen, let me lay it bare. For example, a lot of people who do not understand the technicalities and are streaming on their mobile phone tonight and are watching on their television set, perhaps they are powering their television set with their generator, and they're wondering what is there for them in terms of the negotiation tonight. They may not be on the table, but the food on the table is a major concern. Mr. Peter Esele, give us a sense of, you have been in this kind of situation before. In 2012, we've seen and heard this kind of situation. Where do we go? What will benefit the people? What could it be? And give us a sense of what this means.
Now, first thing is we have to look at the electricity tariff increase. We've had about 50% electricity tariff increase over time. Now, in 2012, when you had a tariff increase, DisCos were supposed to commit to metering in 18 months. And these DisCos, after 8 months, they didn't commit to metering. Now, the first thing you expected is that you are using power. Of course, you expect to pay for what you are using, but you have no meter. How do you know how much you are spending? What you have is that the DisCos will just wake up and send you a bill, and you have to pay. Most times, most Nigerians end up paying more than what they have used. Now, you are telling us that you are going to increase it. Now, there are framework for increase. There are methodology. There are technicalities that are involved in going ahead to increase tariff. It's not something you just wake up and do. And that's why you see me, I'm accusing the National Electricity Regulatory Commission of dereliction of duty. What I would have expected them to do is way back, January, February, and you start having this conversation. Because once you have a devaluation in Naira, you are going to have, it's going to have its own ramification. In January, you have 306 Naira CBN rate to the dollar. And in September, you have about 390 Naira to the dollar. So what you have is you are going to have price increase across board. The minimum wage that have just been increased by the workers have been further devalued. And then you are going to have cost of living will go up. And then once you start paying that, what you have now is that you are not having workers are agitated. And they are coming to say, we are facing COVID-19 crisis. You have VAT. This whole year has been wonderful. You have VAT increase. And so when you put all this in a box, you find out that life has become difficult for the average Nigerian. What am I expecting federal government to do? It's not just criticizing the government without profiling solution. My first thing, what I would have done if I'm in their shoes, is first, the federal government take it upon itself, social responsibility, to say, okay, we will provide metering. And when you provide metering, and what I expect the DisCos to do is that in providing metering, the cost that you are going to pass on to the consumers, the cost of metering will be taken out. Then what you have is price will also be applicable.
We seem to be having issues with the connections there, but we'll get back to you, Mr. Esele, just in a moment. Prof, Nigeria faces a major problem of revenue. Could FG agree to revert to the old price and of fuel and tariff on electricity? Is it possible?
No, I don't think that is the right thing to do, to expect the government to reverse that, because the first thing we agreed with is the economic case. The economic case of these two increases they are very robust. But the social case is what we need to examine. Mr. Esele is quite correct. We must exhaust communication and protocols and all the constructive engagement. They're starting that. But the thing is, I am not personally happy that you are going to go to somebody that has not been metered and ask him to pay a new price. Meter him first so that he sees what is good and then apply the increase. But of course, you can apply the increase to those who are metered because it's still better for them to use that method than to use generator to supply the thing. That's number one. But number two is that part of the business case is that if the right price is not paid, all the investors will want to now move in because there is now money available. The CBN has opened the vaults to support 7.5 trillion increment in this power base. It's phenomenal. They're not going to come. If they're not going to see that proper rate is going to be commercial, they're not going to take the risk. They're not going to borrow the money.
Prof, apologies again. Apologies again to cut in. There is an obvious race against time. The labor is agitated and says they will go on strike on Monday. The federal government does not want that to happen. Within this frame of time, can the impossibility happen? The reversal, that's what Labour says they want. Can that happen? If you can tell Nigerians, if it's an impossible...
in negotiations, people take extreme positions. Now, Labour is quite correct to say reverse it. Of course, they say reverse it. But if Labour understands that this is a strong economic case, then they will now look at the social side, say, okay, we want 3,000 buses. We want to suspend this action, not indefinitely. We're not withdrawing it. We want to suspend it and review it in 3 months. But meanwhile, we want 3,000 buses or 5,000 buses to get to the root of the matter so that people will ameliorate the hardship. They will say the things that they want. And I'm giving you one other example. Please apply the increase on those who are metered. Those who are not metered, put a meter before you start the apply. So there are things in the middle grounds. All these middle grounds will be graduated to ensure that they are keeping their eyes on the ball. We want to see changes in 3 months, 6 months, not waiting for 5 years.
All right. So Prof, let me bring up Mr. Esele. I understand that we seem to have gotten a good connection with him. Mr. Esele, you have been in that seat where Labour is sitting today. For what we saw in 2012, that almost shut down this country, and the government at the time was very worried. What is perhaps what you may in your mind think could get us out of this quagmire?
I think one of the things that is going to help is you are going to have a negotiation. It's not going to be imposition. And no matter how Labour stands, I think one of the things that Labour has always said is that it's open for dialogue. I've emphasized the fact that we have a breakdown in communication and people just feel no need to communicate. If you look at the refineries, for example, I was also Pengassin president. Pengassin, Nupeng were never totally against deregulation. But it's the means by how you deregulate that they were up against. Now you are moving prices. Automatic now, as I'm talking to you now, you still have subsidy on it. Even if you are paying 159, 160 naira, you still have subsidy on it right now. Because what the government did is just the fact that you devalue your currency by about 27%, and then you increase the price by about 15%. So if you look at the price of crude oil prices right now is about $41. If it gets to about $50, $55, $60, you are looking at about 200, 220 naira per liter going forward. So there is still tough times ahead. What we expect government to do is how do you mitigate these tough times? How do you make life easier for the ordinary Nigerian? It doesn't matter whether all our refineries are working. It's good for all our refineries to work because it will create employment. But significant decrease in the price on the pump price, that is negligible. Why I'm saying that is that you buy crude oil in dollars and you sell in naira. Because of a devaluation, you have to now sell in naira, and in selling in naira, the prices you are going to have an uptick in the price.
All right.
What do I expect the government to do?
Yeah,
What
I want us to wrap up this conversation, and I'd like you to do that in 20 seconds each. Let me first of all ask you, Mr. Esele, in 20 seconds. I know it's difficult to talk in layman terms because both of you are technical people and you talk in technical terms. But as much as you can, for the millions of those who are average Nigerian who may not understand those technical terms, in 20 seconds, what do you think is the way forward?
The way forward is that government should go ahead, provide palliatives, look at areas of ameliorating this pain, provide meter to the people, and use that meter, the cost of the meter, impute it into the cost of the tariff, which invariably means that the prices will go down. On the deregulation aspect of it, I think government has a huge problem there because government has lost 60% of its revenue, and government wants to get those money back to run itself. So government also had to reduce its recurrent expenditure to make money available for infrastructural development.
Cutting cost of governance. I guess that's what you mean there. Professor Kenife, 20 seconds. What is your final thoughts and a takeaway for a lot of people who are watching tonight? In 20 seconds, Prof.
Agree with him on the main point of let's have some palliatives because, they can't go into this discussion and come out empty-handed. Let's have some palliatives, thousands of buses, do something about the meter. We're not going to have to wait for another 5 years for the meter. If we're going to wait, then the increase for the people who don't have meter will have to wait. So you tie both together. But my brother, look, we just had the result of the second GDP quarter result. It was a complete meltdown. You don't want to have another shutdown. What do you want? And this is a national war. So let's keep talking. Let's get the palliatives in. At least you can save the face of the negotiators. They are doing well for their constituency. The government has all good intentions. There's pressure everywhere. And we have to continue to honor the fact that 60 years, we are celebrating 60-year independence. Many countries haven't been able to celebrate 60 years of their independence.
We must leave it
and we are looking forward in our agenda
because of our time.
to do more.
Yeah. So, but tonight, you get whatever you may be watching, you get a sense of what we try to do tonight on the program, bringing these two men for you to give you a sense of what this means. Channels Television is keeping tabs on what is happening at that meeting. It's been over 4 hours. And the last time I touched base with my colleague there, they're still in a closed technical session there. Our Channels Television will bring to you all the details that you need to know for you to take the necessary action as a citizen. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. That's how far we can go on tonight's program. I'm Sean Kimale. Bye-bye.